monkeys, I feel.
3, 2, 1, I think we're live.
Right.
Hi, folks. This is Dana with the nose. Dana, not Dana with the nose. Back after 2 years of breakage and burnout here with Eugen. Tell me your last name with your words. Is it
Nizic, Eugen Nizic.
I know how you spell it. Is it Nizic? Is it Nizic? Or is it
It
Nizic?
can be if we're going old school European, it's Nizic, but Nizic is fine. I grew up as a Nizic.
Why do you make this face? Micro expressions are everything. Anyway, we're here with Eugen. We're going to be discussing his latest, his one launch with Les Abstraits. And he's going to tell us everything about the brand himself. This is epic. Yes, it is. Yeah. Geoff is saying this is epic. It is. We're going to be discussing the one fragrance we are allowed to discuss. I've sampled 3. I got them as a gift. He didn't let me pay for shipping. Just so you know, this is for free. He bought me. And now it's #sponsored. We're going to be discussing the one fragrance we can discuss, and I think some of you here, hello, where are you? Time to mask up. I saw you had a coverage of this, La Douleur Exquise, but I want to do something because my people do not know your people, and your people definitely don't mingle with my people. My people are all over the place. They're nerds. And they also, some of them live in Eastern Europe. You guys don't overlap. I want to talk to them about you, which I've done in the past because you showed up on my Romanian lives for some odd reason. But I also want you to tell your people why you're doing this with me and why did you send me your fragrances to smell.
Well, first of all, I can't see the chat. I don't know who's here, but I want to say hello to everybody and welcome. I think it's going to be a blast. Dana and I, we go back. I've had Dana on my live streams, and it's been a while since I've seen her, and I respect her nose, and I wanted to send her samples of my perfumes.
Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you.
She's got a lot to say. She's opinionated, and I love that. I love deep discussions on fragrance. So I thought, why not? Dana's one of my favorite people in this space. So
thank you. Keep going. No, I'm happy to be with you in a space that's only containing the 2 of us because I have jumped on some of your conversations in the past. I felt that's fun to do, but this is serious business, right? Because for a change, this is business. So how do you move from you smelling fragrances, talking about fragrances, to people who know those fragrances, people who sometimes feel the same way you do about fragrances and contextualize perfumery in general the same way you do? The whack pack is strong with this one, right? You have followers who respect your point of view, not because your nose is good, but because the way you translate what you feel with your words and how you choose what to talk about and what not to talk about and how you don't talk about the things you don't want to talk about. They respect that, right? So that's why they follow you. It's almost the same with me, even though for me there's an educational component to my followership. But how do you go from something that's experiential, community-based, and fun to business?
Well, I mean, it's not hard to integrate because when I experience perfume, it's more than just, it's a smell. It's an art form. It's something that I connect heavily with. And we all feel differently about perfume. It's this invisible, intangible object that you can't touch or feel, but it more so feels us. It connects to us, and I've always given my advice on fragrance to my viewers, and they've always accepted it, and they've always had pretty much the same opinion when it comes to fragrance. So I'm hoping that when I go out and create something for myself, it's going to align with all the things that I've talked about over the last 7 years on YouTube.
Right. But is there, see, there are a lot of people who've done this. There are a lot of people who've declared from the beginning that this is what they want to do. They build a followership and then they sell to that followership. It makes sense if and when, that's up to each of you to decide. But you're not doing anything different than Jeremy or all the other influencers who launched fragrance, right?
Right.
So how do you quantify the value of your input without making it a sale?
Well,
but still selling enough to keep a business. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I could have created something that was going to be mass appealing and was going to sell and people would love. I've created something that I found within. Like, I was going through a transformation over my life the last couple of years, and I really became connected with myself and started experiencing things that I've never noticed before. And it was something I wanted to express and something I really believed in. If somebody wants to support this or not, it's totally up to them. I'm not forcing or pushing it upon anybody. This is just something that I believe in and something that I wanted to follow through on.
Do you want to talk about these changes in your life?
We absolutely can. I'm an open book.
Do you want to go back? Because all I know about you is that you have a big mouth. People, when they meet me, they send me to you. You have opinions, and you did some whistleblowing at some point, or you called out some of the behaviors that you had noticed. I don't know what those were because I was too late to the game and I didn't make it to the material in time. I think you took it down, and I think you disappeared for a while. This is pre-heartbreak. This is pre your notion of starting a business. This is but it is part of your public persona that people like you for, right? So given that you are a personality brand, in other words, you're an influencer and you base your future success on people knowing you and following you, you're not no one, right? Then you come as a package. Your history comes as a package. Your mouth comes in the package. Your cigar, which you haven't lit up yet, comes as a package, right? Your stories and your calling out and your whistleblowing and your breakdown and your burnout, if you ever had one, all of these come as a package. So, and probably they participate in creating an authentic notion of what Eugen is, or Eugen, Nizic, however you want to call yourself. We'll talk about that later. It's a package. So, care to talk about the part of the package that most of the new people, or my people, or your new people don't know as much about?
Yeah, I went through a stage where I didn't really like what was going on in the fragrance community, the industry, YouTube, and people like shilling bottles and just kind of selling themselves in trade of fame and just getting large without really being passionate about perfume. It was something that I was dealing with internally. And, you know, there's a time where I called a lot of these people out and caused a lot of controversy. And, you know, a lot of people loved me and hated me for the exact same reason. And that I feel like that's the old version of me, and people love that version. And today people don't like maybe the new version. It isn't as exciting. It isn't as dramatic or controversial, but I feel like I'm in a much happier place and a better place for myself. The transformation for me was kind of breaking free of that former self, that angry, miserable bastard that was too focused on whatever everybody else was doing and not worried about just creating my own stuff. And I've had to let go of that person. And in the process, you know, I went through a lot of personal changes.
Look at this. Reformulated Eugen.
And that's my best friend right there, you know.
To the point.
Right.
You do sound very muted. And I looked you up and I went on Reddit to see what dirt people are digging out for Eugen. And most of it is around you sounded like a yoga commercial or you know, this dude meditated twice and you know, now he's teaching us self-perspective and this and that. I get that. It is more boring. You know, it is. But however, I just want to put it out there. Anger, I think, has been reformulated or actually not reformulated, rebranded as a not a feeling. You know, we're being taught to be in touch with our feelings. Your launch, La Douleur Exquise, talks about the voluptuousness of suffering, right? Mourning is a feeling, sadness is a feeling. All these things are feelings that we account for and allow for. And when you reinvent yourself, or when you illuminate yourself, or when you work on yourself, you're being taught to let it come like a wave, go with the wave, right? Anger is also a feeling. I feel like over the history, women have been branded as the emotional ones only because anger is not taken into account. Because if it was taken into account, all the men would be equally feeling humans. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So when you say you're separating yourself from that, I get it, but why?
Because I have no control over what anybody else does, and I'm not going to let it affect my life. I want to focus on myself and what I can do. And I want to implement, like, I've been on YouTube for 7 years bitching about the state of perfumery, the commercialization of perfumery, the slander of perfumery. And me bitching on this platform doesn't do anything. It doesn't help anybody. So I wanted to take it into my own hands and create the things that I want to see, to be the change I want to see. That's what I want to do, and that's where I want to go into.
That makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. So let's talk about this.
Sure.
You want to talk about this? Just so everybody knows, I have not discussed anything. My notes, I haven't discussed anything with this gentleman here. Because I didn't think, I wanted to email you. I asked for your email. I wanted to email you my impression, and then we decided to do this thing live. I think just to put it out there, I think it's one of the best launches of this year that I smelled, and I haven't smelled enough or as much as in past years. I was there in Milan to speak at Essence, but I got COVID, so I spoke from my hotel room, and I had no access to anything that was there. I do believe it's very authentic to you as far as I got to knowing you. I want to know if this switch up to the new Eugen, the reform Eugen, the one that Rich says probably the only reformation I have approved on an existing formula and all that stuff. Does this and the embracing of this feeling that you said you had, the heartbreak that inspired this, the feelings you had before, the anger towards commercialization of perfumery, do you think your pick of perfumer reflects that? Or is it just because I wouldn't have seen you pick him?
That's a really good question, because I think Antoine Lee and myself, both we share a lot of the same thoughts and opinions and beliefs when it comes to perfumery and the bastardization of it. We are both kind of hard heads, hard nose. We like meaningful, contextual perfume that is brings up emotion and stirs imagination, and is seen more of an art form than mass appeal, mass commercialization. And it's been really the perfect connection. I couldn't have asked for a better outcome. It's been like it was meant to be, from a higher source, a higher power. Like this divinity connected us and bringing us together for this.
Oh, that's so cute. It was meant to be. I don't know what to say to this. I've never heard anybody talk like this. It was meant to be, me and Perfumer. I've heard him talk about Etienne like that, and that kind of makes sense considering what they made, right? And Italie d'Orange. And I know I said I'm going to be talking about perfume, but I do want to go back into the context of this, because both of you believe that things are fucked up, because there's commercialization. All the niche is not niche anymore. We're going into this formulaic, let's make the most money off of this quickest, cheapest methods and ingredients we can. You are both pissed about this. You're both trying to act against it. But the truth is, the market does not allow anymore for experimentation at the scale that the État Libre d'Orange, for example, did it, right? Or Mal, or other people who invented concepts at times when there was enough room on the market. So I think that usually quantity guarantees some sort of quality as well. The more people know about the concept of niche, the more people will look into niche. And if you follow the learning curve, they start with not knowing anything and thinking blah 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 is niche, and it's not. You know, we all know a blah 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 who says it's niche but they're not. And then they go into the sparkly expensive non-niche niches. We know who those are, the royals and the birds and the and then slowly they keep learning, right? And they eventually hopefully get into more artistic, then into artisanal, maybe indie, maybe ultra niche and whatever. So the more people you have who learn about niche, the more chances that some of those will end up actually into the more specialized or artistic perfumery, right? However, you need to make more noise, right? So that means you figure out you want to launch a business. You find Antoine Lee, and it's a match made in heaven. They're birds, and like things, flying around you, and hearts, and boop, boop, boop. When you talk, this is fantastic. How do you decide on the concept of this house? How did you pick that this is going to be Les Abstraits? How did you tie it into, again, the concept, and how did you decide it's French?
This couldn't have been anything else. This couldn't have been any other brand. This couldn't have been any other formula. This is exactly what it was meant to be, because over the last 7 years, I have been discussing about perfume being an art form, more than just a smell, more than just a panty dropper, more than just a compliment getter. Probably one of the greatest art forms that we know. And that's what I wanted to base my brand, the abstract. Perfume to me is very abstract. You and I can wear the exact same perfume, but take out different meaning from it. We can't touch perfume, we can't see it, but you could smell the color yellow and I get the color green. How do we decide who's right?
That makes sense. Why French?
I love French perfume, fine French perfume. Chanel, Guerlain, Dior have been, they planted the seed for me. I saw something in them that I admired and loved, and it was a way for me to give back,
That I know. We all know your love for these guys, but is it authentic? You're not French. You don't even speak French.
Speak French. Do I need to?
I don't know.
Matter?
I don't know.
You can judge me for that, but
it's not for me to judge. It's a question that comes in the context of the latest conversations about the decolonization of perfumery. And when people say that, the people who say that, usually they mean the decolonization, the decentralization of the notion that French perfumery is the only standard. I only brought it up because I also know that Antoine Lee, although talks about the French perfumery schools as being the main ones to go to today, he's also talking about how he believes talent should not be limited by the conditions for joining, right? And at some point, I remember him mentioning a dream of his to start a perfumery school for the mere mortals. I want any kid who doesn't have the money to go to Grasse, to whatever. I want any kid who can't, doesn't have connections as Givaudan and is white and is rich and is whatever.
Yeah.
To be able to hone their talent and kind of give it a structure in order to be able to create.
Yeah.
Because he believes there's value in that as well. And he believes that if the talent is there, theoretically, the results could be fantastic, right? So I'm only bringing this up because people do talk about it. The decolonization of French perfumery. Why does it have to be French? Why it gotta be French?
It doesn't have to be anything. But that's Antoine's dream. That's his idea, his beliefs, his goals, his visions, and that's his thing. And he's allowed to have that. And I'm allowed to have mine. And that's I just chose French because I love French perfume. And it was a way for me to honor French perfumery. It was created by a French perfumer, manufactured in France. Why not?
I'm not saying it shouldn't. I'm asking how you thought about it, or if we should at all. I on Reddit.
I think it just rolls off the tongue better than American or English words.
It sounds smarter, or no, it sounds more something. I don't know if smarter, but yeah. But is that conditioning? Wait, Japanese is easier
Probably.
to roll off the tongue.
Isn't everything conditioning? Aren't we conditioned?
Yes, it is.
To do everything.
What is the point at which?
Are you really Dana Sandu? Or
no, actually, I'm not. And let me tell you how I'm not. Just like you're not Eugen. I mean, you are, but you're not.
But I'm not.
Exactly. Right. My full name is Daniela.
Right.
I started fetching off boys, or fending off, or whatever the word is in English. I don't speak English this morning. And by the third tree I climbed, my parents were like, "This is too feminine for you. So from now on, you shall be Dana." Yep. This is how you say it, Dana. I come to America, and these motherfuckers who can say supercalifragilisticexpialidocious cannot say Dana. They go into Donna, they go Dana. Can I call you Dana? It's easier. And I was dumb enough to say, okay, sure, you can call me something that's not my name, because let me make it easier for you. You know what I mean? This is colonization. You allow it to happen in ways that you've been conditioned to do, because I'm Eastern European and we're taught that we're worth nothing. But French is not worth nothing. So let's go back to the nicer conversations. Talk to me about La Douleur Exquise and heartbreak.
Right. Okay. So, all right. Let me take a deep breath here. This was very large. The greatest experience of my life. Heartbreak, that somebody I spent 10 years with, a soulmate, a twin flame, a best friend, that just came to an end, And there's reasons that people come into your life, right? And relationships can end, and they don't necessarily have to be ugly ends. There can be beautiful ends, and there doesn't have to be anger and bitterment and resentment. And this person came into my life to shine back to me, to reflect back things that I needed to heal, to reflect back pain. And it was a very painful process, this heartbreak. Just to hold this broken heart. It was shattered. It's taken me years to deal with, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. It broke me, but it also allowed me to put myself back together and become who I am today.
Do you think part of allowing pain to happen
is gorgeous?
Is part of honoring what was?
Yeah. Yeah, I've been through heartbreak before, and I used to distract from it. I'd go out chasing other women, looking for drugs, sex, alcohol, food. And I noticed a pattern, and I started to go down that pattern before I caught myself. And I thought I should really deal with this, take care of this pain, not distract from it, but go into this broken heart and heal it properly, so it doesn't come back later in my next relationship and bite me in the ass, and that's what I did. I sat alone on my sofa every single night, out in the forest, by the river, out in nature, and just going into my pain and understanding it and making time for that broken heart. And it was profound for me. It was hard, it was difficult, but it was also a very beautiful process.
The thing is, if you say that changed you, you today cannot refer or report back to the relationship or the heartbreak, for that matter, with the same type of understanding or starting from the same place, because you today are different than then. You might not even go into that relationship the way you did. You might not
I
finish
find even
it.
today, relationships are a distraction from myself. I don't feel like I need anything to fill me up, to fill my happiness, to fill my contentment. Today, I feel I'm enough on my own without a person, without drugs, without sex, without alcohol, without any of those fillers from the outside, from the external world. I can sit here alone and people laugh that I meditate. And that's what I do. I sit here for hours and I just sit with nature by myself in the present. And that completely fills me. I feel like I am connected to the universe, to all people inside of the universe, to all souls, to God, to myself. And I don't need anything.
Then why start a business?
Why not? What else am I going to do?
You said you didn't need anything. So my question is this part of the process? Was it part of the process of healing?
It was for me to express what I was going through, a profound feeling. And because it was the most beautiful thing, you know, I could have started a perfume brand and expressed coffee and donuts, but there's no substance to that. To me, a broken heart was the most profound thing that I've ever dealt with. And I wanted to share that in an art form, in my favorite art form.
What are the questions people have about this or comments so far? Your people, they're here. A lot of people are commenting. A lot of people are supporting you and sending you hearts. And what are people saying? How do they receive it?
I'm getting amazing feedback so far. People love the story that I'm sharing. They love the fragrance itself. They love that I'm able to be vulnerable, which makes space for them to do the same. I've been getting a ton of messages from people dealing with heartbreak, sharing their stories, which is fantastic. I've been getting the same as far as the fragrance. Thank you for creating a beautiful fragrance, a meaningful fragrance, which you don't see so often these days. And they're just very, it's the feedback has been positively overwhelming.
Here's a professional advice for you. You didn't ask it. You feel free not to use it, but this is a perfect opportunity for you and your whack pack to document all this, because if you go into the personal, which is what every successful brand does, if you go into the personal and you find the relatable bits, or you don't even have to seek them because people volunteer them, which happens because we're humans and the only natural reaction is to relate, to find the things that are similar in us to others if we want to extend to them. This is a great opportunity to document all this and to create something that could be parallel to the perfume. And it's called content marketing. You literally launch into the NAND, right, into the air, to the universe, this request that people come and stitch their stories to yours. Create a landing page, create a simple form that they can write their story in, anonymously or not. And then that can be the technical book, the non-technical technical book of the fragrance. You know, this is your communal space. And a landing page is easy to do on your website. I don't know if you're building it yourself or somebody else is doing it for you. A form is easy to attach, and you can literally post them in real time or let them contribute content to that one page. It's going to be an interesting, you know, flash and moment. It's going to be this is what people thought of.
That was part of the idea of creating this fragrance myself, is by me becoming vulnerable and talking about the hard things that I went through. I'd like for others to do the same, because it's easier to heal that way when you speak of what it is you're dealing with instead of internalizing, especially for men. You know, we have grown in a society that shuns men that express their emotions. From a young age, we're told to shut up, to not cry. Only girls cry, right?
Yeah.
Don't show emotion. If a man cries, it's weakness. Men shouldn't show that. But a lot of men are suffering from this today.
Yeah,
and you look
it's very
at
toxic.
suicide rates are at a high. Why? Because men feel alone. They don't feel accepted. They are terrified to express weakness, or weakness is not a good word, because it is actually strength and courageousness to talk about what pain you have inside of you.
Well, famous YouTuber says that he thinks it's tacky and in bad taste for people. I'm assuming I'm people to delve into your personal life. So I'm gonna leave it up to you.
To be honest, I don't know what people. I don't go into those spaces, so I have no idea what they're saying.
No, I just put it on the screen.
Right. I know,
So,
but it's kind of a response to Duncan.
I think he means me. I think he thinks this conversation should not happen right now in this way, but he can correct. Okay. I just put it out there to give you an outing if you want an outing, even though I know you can.
No, we're good, Dana. You and I are good.
All right. Who's JJ Preach? There we go. JJ says this. Loving this. Okay, la douleur exquise. The exquisite pain. I would call it the voluptuous pain, because I feel like when you're thinking of pain as a pleasure outside of these sexy times, if you think of the feeling of pain, the emotional pain, the mental pain, as something not pleasurable. English doesn't do it justice, right? Excuse. It's something exquisite, something to be savored. Something to be consumed slowly and attentively, and bit by bit and bite by bite. It usually goes into the abandonment phase, the voluptuousness phase, where you are imploding repeatedly and then retracing that chaos and creating something new with it, right? It's a slow process. So how'd you pick the name?
As I said before, pain is, a lot of people want to avoid pain. They want to experience pleasure and pain. Nobody wants pain, but I noticed as I was going into this broken heart and going into the pain, it was I just accepted it and embraced it, and it was a beautiful feeling just watching nature take its course. And that's kind of where the exquisite thing came in from. The name. So we had a couple of different working names. Rose Noir was a working name. Patchouli Trauma was a working name because it is a rose patchouli. And as I went to the editor, the brand editor, she's like, Eugene, I love, the brand editor is Barbara Herman from Eris and Eris Parfums. And she's like, that
makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
I love the concept. I love the themes. I love the idea of the perfume, that you're getting vulnerable. I love the perfume itself. However, I hate the name.
Patchouli Trauma?
Yeah. So it was like labels were about to go get printed in a day or two. And I sat there with a couple of friends, Rich, Mitch, Galen, Thomas, and we brainstormed. And overnight, we came up with new names for all three perfumes.
I salute that. First of all, I wouldn't put patchouli in a name because this is not necessarily patchouli centric, and it's not a regular patchouli. This is not a dirty patchouli. This is it's almost like when you lick a battery. To me, it's a very clean. No. Listen, it's zingy. It's metallic a little bit. It's like magnesium salts. It's very crisp. I don't know what kind of patchouli this is, but it's very it's like this. I don't know.
Right.
Does that make any sense to you?
Yeah, the high quality patchouli where they've taken out the harsher elements.
There's no dirtiness to it. I feel there's even a little bit it's mineral. I don't know how to explain it. It's clean. It's zingy. It's leathery.
It's like, I find it leathery.
Okay, so let's talk about the fragrance. I think the first 10 seconds are probably some of the most exciting seconds I've smelled lately. And they're the exact 10 seconds I'm chasing in only two other fragrances that I've smelled before. Because the fleeting floral nature of the top, I smell it floral. And I smell it very airy. And I smell it very almost like in the abstract notion of a peony, right? Like, or that the cherry flowers accords. It's very airy, very florally. You think you can guess what's in there, but on the skin, the first 10 seconds are very airy floral to my nose, with a very heavy suede touch. So I've been digging for like a T under accords. Couldn't find them easily. I've been digging for, you know, the separating the saffron bits. I smelled I smell a lot of saffrony kind of also floral, slightly dusty, slightly dry, and saffrony, leathery, suede bits. I've been trying to separate that from the top to try to figure out what I'm smelling. I don't know what I'm smelling, which I love because that's the beauty of things, right?
Abstract.
Sure. I see one of those like very flu peonies in my head. It's like a weird, airy, dark pink, but foo-foo. There's a lot of layers. Like, you know, it's foo-foo.
Yeah.
But it's very, yes, I guess it is abstract. It does not smell like Portrait of a Lady. No. I don't know. No, it does not.
Yeah, that wasn't the goal.
It does not smell like Portrait of a Lady. It doesn't really smell like anything I've smelled in the rose, leathery, patchouli-ish combos. It does smell French, in my opinion. It does blend really well, and the evolution from one stage to the other is very abrupt, but very smooth. It's kind of like a slide more than a drop, if that makes sense. You in the back with the hand up, you have a question. Who has a question? I don't know how to operate this. You taught me about...
Who has a question? I don't
know, but this is what Phil says.
Your whatever you're looking at.
Is there an area where people can put their hands up? Bushi, you know me and you would be perfect. Lovers don't lie. I don't know who you're talking to, famous YouTuber. Famous YouTuber is talking about finding lovers. Maybe Phil above? I don't know. I don't know what you're into. Time to My Cup says, I get dry saffron. All right. So floral, airy, very 3D stratified airiness. It's not light. It's actually quite impactful, but it gives me this spatial feeling. Does that make sense?
Yeah, there is a little bit of subtlety to it. There is like a broken heart is delicate, and it is kind of on the delicate side. This perfume, it is. I mean, there's a lot of substance, depth, richness there, but there's also this sense of delicacy, like delicateness.
Fluff. Fluff. There's, I don't know how to call it. For me, fluff means 3D. It means airiness. There are a lot of layers. There's a lot of substance there, but it's spaced in a way that's not dense. It's not hard to consume. It's manageable. It's there's depth. After this bit, I'm, you know, the whatever rose you put in there, I discovered there's a note in your package and I haven't read it. So there's, I think this is instructions or stuff or notes.
It's a note, yeah, note and a brief.
I haven't read the notes or the brief because I want to talk to you about it. But the even the rose that's in there, I don't recognize it. I grew up with the roses you make preserves out of, you know, the Bulgarian dense, sickening, in a good way, summery roses. Yeah, they're not sophisticated, they're not very layered, but they have the kind of depth that makes you feel like when you go on, you know, when you smell it, you go, huh, your insides go.
They're complex. Huh. They take you on a ride.
A little bit. So then,
so I believe it is Turkish and Bulgarian rose.
Okay. The Turkish is a little bit more delicate to my nose and a little bit darker. It goes into almost like chrysanthemum. In my head is in between the Rose de May and Bulgarian and the Taif. It's kind of like...
Yeah. To me, they're very plump roses, almost like a meaty rose, like the bulb of the rose. You know, you can do this with it. And it's like a bouquet, not just a singular rose. It's a bouquet with green stem and thorns in the leaves.
It is. It's darker and a little bit bitter. there's more flesh and more bitterness and more darkness and
fleshy.
a little bit. The first stage, like I said, to me lasts about 10-15 seconds, and then the second stage lasts forever until I'm short circuit, with the last stage that is very weirdly very clean and very patchouli, but in this stainless steel type of way. It's very clean. There's no dirt.
Interesting that you call it clean, because there are some animal bits in there.
No. I'm talking about patchouli specifically.
Patchouli. Okay.
The animal bits are my favorite bits, because I think, and I think Anna does too, who's here and says, I'm listening to, do we find tears of metallic pain? Yes, we find metallic pain. The animal bits go throughout from the beginning to the end. I think there's castrum in there because it's fat and smoky and leathery and all the good stuff. But it feels like Antoine has another thing with a crotch smell. That festival Costus like. It's not really animalic, but it kind of smells like it, because it's kind of like crotch smell, festival crotch smell. Like you wake up and your spit is not quite smelling good, you know, after a night of partying, kissing the right person or the wrong person or whatever.
Yeah,
he has that. It feels like a wet animalic, wet dog ish crotch quality to a lot of his fragrances, and I find it here as well. And to be honest, I found it slightly in the other two as well.
Really? In the third one, perhaps, yes, for sure, there are more animalic bits. In the second one, the brief was to keep it clean. And if he's added something, not that I know of,
I think I can't talk which part of the second one gives me that impression. We can talk privately, but yeah, there's this quality to a lot of. And he made Sécrétion, and we know he likes to push bits, right? What I also felt, and rien, I mean, yes, overdose of everything. I also found that in all three of these fragrances, there's a very, very thin line that he kind of keeps poking at. In the first one, I feel like the line poking happens with whatever leathery accord he put together.
It's probably a mix of the labdanum and castoreum is where the leather is coming from.
How about is there any saffron accord?
Yeah, saffron, clove, cumin.
You can feel the cumin. You can feel some cloves in there, particularly at the end with the clean bit, with the clean patchouli. I don't know why. The end for me, which happens about 5-6 hours in, is very metallic, very zingy. It's very serious. It's like dark in a very sterile way, which is really weird because the middle is so alive and so fleshy and so furry, which doesn't sound good, but I guarantee you it is.
It actually does sound good.
I've had times when it almost felt fizzy. It's almost like a Coca-Cola. I don't know. It's like a sweet myrrh or something.
Yeah, there's myrrh in there.
It's like almost like a Coca-Cola, that kind of quininic, dark-ish undertone. That's why I said I was looking for tea notes. I haven't particularly found specific tea notes, but I found bits of the compositions that make me think of black tea, chrysanthemum, cola, that kind of tanninic, but not winey wine tannin. Does that make any sense to you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes the labdanum comes out very clearly, and sometimes I found that the patchouli has a little bit of goes towards like chamomile, tagette, even galbanum, but very rarely because it's not reading green to me. But it goes into the the dark orange bitter flower, medicinally a little bit. It's been very fun testing this, and it's been very fun to see the changes, particularly because the first time I tested all three smelled completely different from the second time I tested all three. And I have somebody here who's Ana Stoyan, who's also a reviewer. She's based in Spain. Brilliant nose and very good common sense. And I was describing the three to her in a way that I'm not talking about them today. She's like, that's interesting. It kind of makes sense for Anton Lee. And then we talked again, and I'm like, this is not how it smelled. This is I'm smelling something completely different. So particularly the other two fragrances
that's normal. That happens.
Very different from wearing to wearing. Is that intentional, or is it a function of being in these
Dana, I got the exact same thing. It's almost every time I wear them, different facets show up. I never know what to expect or what's going to come. And that's kind of been the brilliance of Antoine's work. Is it's
wait a second. Tantamas Cup says the patchouli is made in all stainless steel. That's part of how they make the patchouli so clean. You knew this?
Yeah, it's in the brief.
And you wouldn't say it?
I don't get stainless steel. I don't get metallic, but if you get it, then it's true for you.
I'm talking about licking batteries. You're like, I don't know what you're talking about. No,
but it's extracted using all stainless steel, all from one supplier, opposed to like a mix of different farmers.
I'm gonna kick famous YouTuber out because I do not appreciate any of this. Put your butt on my face. Let's make yin to yang. Fuck you, dude. No, thank you very much. This is not that kind of meeting. Sorry. Is this one of your people?
Yeah, he's a familiar face.
That's okay. That's fine. He can stay familiar to you. Amplify the clean by contrasting with dirty. Good point. Maybe that's one of the ways he does it.
And contrast is one of the beauties of perfume, and make great perfumes.
Even when you don't read it, right? I found that unless I intentionally analyze or try to break down some things that I smell into what makes them so that I understand, we never do, but I try to play at it, the formula. Usually the best ones are not the ones that blend things in a very obvious way, right?
Yeah.
It's the seamlessness that makes you free up enough space in your mind to actually get inspired. Because if it's abstract and if it's art, it's supposed to make you feel something, right? Sure. If it's not making you feel something that so it's connected to your memories and your sense of smell and something particular, if it makes you feel things the way art does, then that thing you feel is outside of your context and outside of your brain. It's new. You're inspired to feel something that otherwise you wouldn't, right?
Right.
I think that most of the fragrances that do that are the fragrances that let you not wonder too much. Don't make you think. They make you feel, right? Do you feel the same?
Yeah.
I think he did this here. Antoine is...
A lot of this was his doing. You'll notice in the perfume, there's no citrusy top notes. There's nothing sparkling. There's nothing fizzy. There's nothing aromatic. There's nothing exciting. It is a lot of heavy bass notes, because what is a broken heart? Nobody's ever celebrated a broken heart. It's a heavy feeling. And that's how that's the way he's gone to translate this perfume, is by using heavy notes to imply that heaviness of a broken heart.
To me, now that you mention it, dude, this makes sense. Listen to this.
There's no lavender in here jumping off your skin.
No, I'm making stuff up. But what if? Because I've been talking about how it starts with a lot of depth and then it goes into this very alive thing. And then it finishes very clean. and very sterile and very peaceful and very quiet, with these things that normally I would feel in right under the top, right? They would come and punch you in the face and they would create the middle. What if we start with chaos, the foo-foo? Listen. I can make shit up all day long. What if we start with the foo-foo and the depth and the chaos? We don't know what's what, and it's sickening because that's what love is, and foo-foo flowers. And then you go into the hurt, you go into the fleshy, you go into the dirty, you get into the sexy, into the memories, you start processing it all, right? And you feel it. And then as you process your pain, you go into the peace.
Yeah,
the
totally.
cleanliness. You
I'm not
cleaned up.
sure how deep you've gone into the dry down, but it's a very ambery accord. There's Apopanox, myrrh, labdanum, and
Yes.
it gets slightly powdery, and you can feel those ambers really start to glow. There's no vanilla, there's no tonka, there's no benzoin. It's not an
right
genre. It's an amber, and you can feel those ambers just kind of sparsely. They have a glow to them, like a golden glow, and it's to me, it's a reminder of if you've ever made a campfire, and at the end of that fire, when it's kind of extinguishing, if a little puff of wind will come by, it'll light up that log, and you'll see the ember just take on some light, and then it'll fade back. And that's what the dry down to me is very symbolic of. Just the end of fire.
You call it an amber accord. I don't smell it as an amber, because again, like there's a very clean frankincense. Like I can smell almost the piney, citrusy undertones of that kind of frankincense. I have it in the house. I have all kinds of frankincense in the house. I love it. When frankincense is clean and not mixed with any sweeteners, or not the regular ones anyway, it's crisp. It's peaceful.
Frankincense is made to sterilize, purify the air in the room.
I know. I did a whole hour and a half with Sebastian about resins and all of that stuff. We even chewed on some of it because
why not?
What you do, yeah. But in here, the frankincense is very clean. The patchouli is very clean. I feel a little bit of orris, but it's not buttery. It's more like
there is orris in there.
It's more like what? It's not carroty either. It's a little bit powdery.
It is powdery.
It's a little bit powdery. Everything that's on the base, it's very stable. I even feel some labdanum in the raw labdanum. I don't know which form you've used it in, but the raw labdanum, the sticky one, when you open it like this, is like sticky.
The resinous labdanum, yeah.
It smells a little bit of almost like bay leaves. It goes into that waxy, medicinally, but dark herbal smell, rather than sage, which is fluffy to my nose and milky sometimes, or mint, or I don't know, whatever people put in perfumery and in perfumes, and they make them herbal, or aromatic. To me, they're bits of labdanum that are very dark green, waxy, like the Mediterranean, right? You can't grow on the Mediterranean coast because it's very arid. In order to grow, you have to be
labdanum,
right? So you have to be dense in your construction as a plant. You have to be hardy. You have to be waxy. You have to be concentrated. You have to make sure that the goats don't eat you or whatever. So those bits, it feels like they show in the base, whereas the balsamic burning state of labdanum shows more in the middle. I don't know how this is constructed, but it does feel a little bit backwards. which is very interesting to me.
Okay.
Because the bigness is beginning in the middle.
Yeah.
The notes that are immense and need to be consumed, and the end is very present. It lasts forever. But it's very peaceful. It doesn't make you stir.
It does end quite peaceful, quite resinous. I get a lot of resins in the base. It's a mixture of that Apopanox, myrrh, labdanum, whatever else is listed in there. He's added a mountain of resin, frankincense, and that labdanum. What it does for me is really plays with the castoreum and drives. I don't think there's a leather in there per se, but the labdanum
labdanum
adds leathery facets.
Do you know what kind of compounds he used for rose? Like, is it an auto? Is it an absolute?
Absolutes.
Is it an absolute?
Yeah.
I don't know enough. I've done side-by-side comparisons, but I don't know enough to be able to isolate something like this in a composition. But for me, it's the leather impression. It might not even, like you said, it's not an accord specifically used for this, but it's an impression that is compound from castoreum, probably saffron, probably some parts of the labdanum, some of the other resins. I even smell a little bit of elemi in my head. I don't know why I think of that.
It's interesting you said bay leaf earlier, and Antoine's never mentioned bay leaf, but I get that spiciness of bay leaf, that dry, almost textured bay leaf.
Yeah,
I've gotten a sense of that many times. Bay leaf has come to my mind.
The leather impression is the line for this one that Antoine Lee. I wouldn't say he walks on it. I feel he kind of keeps poking at it, but he never crosses it. So my curiosity would be if that was him deciding not to cross it, because he does cross a lot of frigging lines. We know that's why he's the punk, right? The alternative, the call him whatever you want. But was that him or you who decided?
No, that was him.
Huh.
That was him.
That's a freaking teaser, I'm telling you. Because you're always scared. I am. I like leather, but in this particular composition, it wouldn't make sense for me for it to be more of. I spoke like a boot. Sorry, English is not my first or second language. It wouldn't have made sense for me to have more leather in this composition. Yeah, you would have ruined it.
You're absolutely right. It never really crosses the line, but it's there and it's noticeable, and you take note of it. It's not like a new sports car leather, or I don't know. I don't get leather boot from it. It is just kind of like a very slight leathery facet.
Yeah, and it's just enough.
Just enough. Like Time to Musk Up has called it, like, it's a purr throughout the life of the fragrance. That's what it adds.
He does the same with the second. I'm not going to tell what the line is because you told me not to talk about them. And the third, the first iteration in my taste testing and notes for the third also highlighted another line. The second time I haven't found it there. So I'm going to have to retest.
The third has a kick to it. It has an animalic kick to it. And there was a time where I asked Antoine, can we turn up those animal bits a little bit more? And he said, no, it's already too much. And I was like, all right, you're the boss. I
don't think it's too much, but I do agree that if you put more, it would change the fabric. Like it wouldn't be what it is today. I think it would put it in a different category. Does that make sense?
Yeah. That's been great working with him, because I'll recommend something, or he'll tell me beforehand. He'll know if it's going to work or not. Like, he's just blended these things so many times. He's very familiar with the materials he's working with. He can foresee. There's been a couple of times where he's taken recommendations or said, oh no, that won't work, or let's try this. right? So it's been a wonderful process.
Tanya Muscup says, that's how I feel. It doesn't smell like amber. I think this is from when we were talking about the deep dry down. The third phase. Labdanum and benzoin feel separated. They don't work together, he says. I don't feel the labdanum per se in the third one. We already talked about that. Let's see. Catherine says, acceptance and honoring of pain produce clarity. I think this is turning back onto you. I mean, we can find meaning, right? We can take something that touches us and find meaning in absolutely everything. We can find parallels. We can say it was meant to be. This is what had to come out, and it had to come out this way. And I think it's a very fun exercise to do, even though there might not be anything there. But then if we don't do anything, what's left, right? If we don't find this kind of,
Definitely. I think what she's trying to say is you can learn a lot from your pain, and from learning you can grow and improve your life. And it would be a waste to go through that painful process without taking anything from it.
Let's see. If there are any questions for Eugen, for Nizic, this is the time, guys. We're coming up on the hour. Jesus, really? And Ashfaq is asking if we can expect some Costos. Yum.
We'll see. I think Costas is heavily restricted now, isn't it?
Well, so
are a lot of things.
So are a lot of things. Yeah, I was like, what should I pick? Isn't Rose nowadays more restricted than we want it to be? Ethyl maltol is not restricted.
Which?
Ethyl maltol.
Oh, yeah, right. That's because that's what everybody wants. That's
not restricted.
That's what sells a lot of bottles.
I know. Here's a question for you. How did you decide on this portfolio? This is one question that I always ask people who present more than one offering, be them whatever the offering is. It can be perfume, it can be whatever, artistic acts, it can be houses, it doesn't matter. How do you decide on the menu? How did you decide that you needed this to be a, whatever you want to call it, rose patchouli leather combo? How did you decide on the second?
I want to decide that's going to tell my story?
No. How did you decide that if you're launching 3 fragrances, one has to be this, the second needs to be whatever the second is?
La Doulette Exquise is the first in the story. The story is in succession.
Aha. All right.
So there's the story of heartbreak and the following story. And then, there's the story of healing. And then the rebirth.
It's kind of weird to talk about stuff that you can't talk about, huh?
Right.
Yeah, sorry. I should ask that question.
We'll give you a little bit. We'll give you a little bit.
Maybe. Let's see. The reliable... Oh. Here we go. The reliable Costas replacer, Costas Olifac. Yes, there are. But I think Lee is used to using real Costas. Here's a question to you: why is he presenting himself as a chemist first? Because if you go on Antoine,
isn't he a chemist? I don't know.
He is.
Right.
He is.
He's an artist before, I think.
But you find self descriptions that often include that before anything else.
He does chemistry, but he makes art from them. I can't answer that for him. I don't know. Chemist.
Isn't that interesting? You have maestros, you have creative directors, you have... I'm not meaning to put them down.
That's translated from French and means something else. I don't know.
Okay, maybe we can send them.
Why do you think, Dana?
I don't know. That's why I'm asking. If I had an opinion and I was sure of it, I probably wouldn't be asking.
If I was sure of the answer, I'd be happy to tell you, but I don't know.
I think I think as we move into accepting that the market can only allow for things that are well constructed conceptually, and operating on a sustainable business model, then success cannot be replicated or created at the same rate, scale, and in the same ways as we used to in the 80s and 90s and 2000s when it comes to artistic anything, really. I have a lot of friends in the arts world. They're visual artists, they're filmmakers, they're sculptors, and all are talking about the importance of self-marketing, right? And not only doing marketing for yourself, in your case, marketing for you, for your brand, talking about it wherever you can to whoever would listen, but also choosing what to present and editing content to make sure that you carve the niche for yourself before you carve the niche for your brand. So if Antoine is working with a lot of people, now he has enough history behind him to not have to open his eyes in the morning. I'm sure he gets bombarded with a lot of requests and a lot of proposals. He makes the money he probably wants to be making and so on and so forth. It's not hard for him to say no. And it's not hard for him to just sit there and receive requests. He doesn't have to go out to seek collaborations, right? And yet, when he decides to talk about himself, he often, from what I've noticed so far, presents himself as a chemist and then as a perfumer. And I think that's telling. I think given how he feels about the industry at large, maybe that's meaning something. And it's not just a coincidence. It's not just what their PR people told him to do, if he has any. Anything you want to add, my friend? Anything else I've been rambling about and you want to confirm?
No, I think he's been very selective on the projects he chooses, and he can accept or deny anything that comes his way. I think he got tired of commercialization, and that's why he's gone independent. But I love what he's doing. He's working on these, smaller projects. They're more intimate, but he feels more connected than ever with the things that he is creating and releasing, which I applaud. He was criticized by a lot of his peers when he started going niche with État Libre d'Orage, with Comme des Garçons, because he was freed. He was one of the first to break from that mold of designer flavoring houses. People were questioning, like, why would you do this? Mm-hmm. And now, they
want to be him.
They want to be him. He's a trailblazer. He's paved his own path. And good for him. I'm proud of him.
It's pretty brilliant what he did and what he keeps doing, because I think it's hard to go back to work classic works when your reputation is built on being so punky or so rock and rolly or whatever the people call
avant-garde.
him, or avant-garde, right? It takes nuts and guts to go back to the technicalities of classically inspired fragrances, and les indémodables and les abstraits. They're very.
It feels like throughout his career, he's gone through several transformations himself. He went from that designer world where he was doing stuff for like Armani Code, and then he went through that avant-garde phase with Comme des Garçons and État Libre, and now he's coming back to just a respect of purity and classical perfume, but in a very progressive way.
Anna says his work for État is outstanding. Can't say the same about Le Cercle du Parfumeur Créateur. Well, the latest États are not what the first États were either, right? So I think that speaks to the state of the market, because when even companies like Eldo feels the need to go commercial, then something's wrong, right? Or maybe they want to go out with a bang and that's it. I had an email exchange with Etienne. He sent me the latest releases, the Experimental Crucis and all that stuff, and I'm like, nope. I'm sorry. I love you to death. Nope. I mean, no.
I have no idea. I don't follow the brand. I don't know where they're heading. I do know that they're inside of Sephora now, so that's kind of telling.
Oh, Yeah, I don't know. And he said, I'm considering closing, and this is I don't know if it's his activity at the head of the brand or the house. I don't know, but his email was very like, at least we can go out with the bang. And I'm like, this ain't it. It's like not the bang you wanted. But the initial work for it was fun
Yeah.
stuff, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
JJ says this.
Oh, great question, JJ.
Mm.
I'd be interested in how this project perhaps helped Eugene explore his attachment and relationship to fragrance itself. By fragrance itself, does he mean fragrance consumption? Because I was consuming and purchasing and hoarding a lot of perfume, or in what manner, what exact way what does he mean by fragrance?
JJ, can you clarify for us, please? In the meantime, York's Geezer says, Antoine Lee is the new Alberto Morillas. No, he's not. Do you know why? Because he ain't making anything with Jeremy. That's why.
That's absolutely not true.
That's it. That's it. That's all I got to say about that. But maybe he is. Soon you'll have more perfumes than Alberto. Art, really, or money. I don't know. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder. If you have beauty in your eye, you're going to see beauty. If you have ugly in your eye, you're going to see ugly. Ha, ha, ha. Kyle. Ooh, look who we have here. Hi, Kyle. You need to smell his fragrances. Agreed. People like to keep people in a box. People evolve. JJ is clarifying with this consumption of fragrance. So just to reiterate, I'd be interested in how this project perhaps helped Eugene explore his attachment and relationship to consumption of fragrance.
Yeah, there was a time in my life that I was consuming fragrances as much as I possibly could to make myself feel better. I was understimulated. I was miserable. I was depressed. I was insecure, and fragrances, purchasing fragrances, took all those away temporarily. So I was just buying as many things as I possibly could. Things that I didn't even truly love. It was just like, it was a getaway. It was escapism. It was consumerism.
This is my question for you. Kyle says.
Thank you, Kyle.
My question for you. One of the conditions to long-term businessing is scalability, right? And concepting usually should, in my professional opinion, because I do a lot of concept writing and auditing and market research and business contextualization and analyst reports and stuff. No, that's for us. That's for fun. This is for Perfumery. I do that in my day-to-day life in Silicon Valley. So it's a completely different type of approach. But we're still talking about a business, right? A business is a business. And one of the conditions for long-term success is the scalability of the business, not just logistically, but as a concept. So, for example, if you're, let's say, zoologist, I keep giving this example in professional settings because it makes sense. The concept is the anthropomorphic idea of an animal, and the perfume is built around that. You can add as many animals you want. There will never be a pause or a sourcing issue, right? Or a lack of ideas. You just add whatever you want. There's an animal for it, and somebody will be specifically focused on that animal. All the owl lovers are going to buy the owl fragrance, and so on and so forth. So the concept is self-selling, self-scaling, right? If you have a collection of 3 that are thought to be the 3 phases of mourning a relationship or a broken heart or mending or self-healing or a personal journey of some sort, how do you move from that if you want to move from that? So I guess it's 2 questions. Do you want to go beyond these 3? And
Yeah,
if
I'd
so,
like
how do you
to,
plan to do it?
but there's no plan to have a certain set amount of fragrances. I don't need to have 25 perfumes.
Okay.
When I'm inspired and there's something that I want to share and I feel like I need to create and share with the world, that's where we're going to move from. My inspiration comes from within, what I feel and connect with inside of my body, such as this profound feeling of heartbreak or healing or a spiritual awakening. And when I feel more of these, we'll create perfumes to reflect that.
Okay. I'm going to let you go. It's well past the hour now. Folks, if you have any more questions, if you watch this at a later date, if you disagree with stuff, if you want to reach us, we're open books, right? I know I am, you are.
I'm very easily found.
Same for me. I'm all over the place, even when you don't want me to be. But I'll answer all questions if I can. And if you want to direct them to Eugen, to Nizic, he's available as well. If you have questions for Antoine Lee, I did have a few. He said he will try to join us, but he was in transit somewhere, right? You were saying?
That's right.
So I have a few questions prepared for him, which I'm going to pass on to Eugen to give further. But if you too want to hear things about les abstraits and anything that has to do with your journey, I guess, as it refers to perfumery, not just anything, I'm guessing, feel free to get in touch. And until next time, wherever you go, make it better. Hashtag.
Thank you so much, Dana. This has been a pleasure and a joy. Thank you, everybody in the chat, for being here and watching and supporting.
And we'll see you with the second launch.
We'll see you soon.
When? How soon?
When the time is right, when it feels right.
All right.
We'll go
Bye,
with the
everyone.
gut. Always go with the gut.
Thank you. Bye. And broadcast.